Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin with Rustic Grain Designs, and we just recently purchased the Festool Kapex for our shop. In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how I tune this saw up to get those perfect 90-degree cuts that everyone desires. Stay tuned. So the first step in this process is to select your material and make sure your material has a nice straight edge to it. This straight edge is what you're going to reference off of throughout this whole process. And this process just doesn't work for this Kapex. It will pretty much be the same for any miter saw that you buy. So there's a couple different ways that you can achieve this. You can either use a piece of scrap birch plywood like I did here, and I know for sure that this edge right here is perfectly straight. You can run a piece of hardwood through your jointer, or you can just simply use a straight edge guide and cut off a piece of plywood with a circular saw. There's a couple different options, and the key is just to make sure that you have a nice straight edge to reference off of. Okay, so now that we've selected our piece of stock and we know for sure that we have one nice straight edge, we have to identify it. So see how I marked it here, and I also marked it on the other side. And like I said before, this is what we're going to reference off of throughout this whole process. And what I mean by that is that this part of the square is going to reference off of our straight edge, so that we know for sure that it should be 90. If our saw is 90, then when we slide up this square to it, it should be exactly 90 and exactly square. So the first step is I simply put the board on edge with the reference mark down on the bed of the fence, and then I simply make a cut. So then, as you see, this is really cheap birch plywood that has really thin veneer on it, so it always tears out, which that's okay for this demonstration. So then again, this is our straight edge, this is our square. We're going to reference that off of it, and this should come down and seat perfectly. And then once you make your cut, a really cool trick is to hold this piece up to a light, and you'll see if there's any gaps between it at all, and you'll know that your blade isn't perfectly 90. So if your blade or your square is kind of like this, then you know the head of your saw itself is more tilted to the left than it is the right, and then vice versa. If it's like this, then it's tilted more to the right than the left. So then you got to make those adjustments. This one is perfectly square because I've already tuned the saw up. So this is what the back of the Kapex usually looks like. It has this little plastic cord holder right here. To be able to make any adjustments to the head itself, you have to remove this, and there's these two Allen bolts right here, and you have to loosen those and make your adjustments left or right, however you feel that you need to make it. This one was actually tilted more to the left, and so I made the adjustments, rechecked my cuts, and now it's dead on and perfect. And basically what I mean by your saw might be tilted to the left or the right is this head right here should be straight up and down. It might be tilted to the left, which is causing you to have more gap up here, or tilted to the right, which is causing you to have more gap down here when you put your square up to it. So here's our mark, reference off this side, and so that's basically what I mean by that. And it's very important to make sure that the saw is left on the 0-degree detent when you're making these adjustments from left to right or the bevel of the saw. If it's not, then you go back to the 0-degree detent, then it's not going to be square and not going to be 90 like you want it to be. So make sure that you leave it on that 0-degree detent when you're making these adjustments. All right, guys, we are on the home stretch and we almost have our miter saw completely set up and dialed in. So the last step is to adjust these horizontal miter detents right here. So again, you have your straight edge right here. You're going to reference that up, laying down flat against the fence now, and then you make a cut. So then again, take your square, you're going to reference on that flat straight edge that you already have, and then see if there's any discrepancy or any gaps shining through on the light when you hold it up there. And then again, this one's perfect because I've already tuned it up. So I know you've heard me say throughout the video detents, and if you're not aware of what a detent actually is, it's actually these little things right here. See this little notch cut out in this piece of metal. So a detent is basically just a preset degree that's built into the system already. So typically there's detents at 0, 22.5, 31.6, 45, maybe 60, depending on what your miter saw can do. But it's just an easy, quick way to be able to move your miter saw to a specific degree. And if your miter saw is set up correctly in the first place, then it just makes it very, very easy. So like this one is the detent for 22.5. So now I know for sure that this saw is at 22.5 degrees. And then I'll quickly move it back. Now I'm back to 0. So basically, once you've made this cut with the board laying flat like this, you've held the square up to the light and figured out where that gap is. Then you need to adjust it. Hopefully you don't see any gap, but if you do, not that big of a deal. On this saw, it's very simple to adjust, and it's very similar to most other saws as well. So there's basically 3 bolts. There's one here, and one there. You have to loosen up this arm right here and then loosen all 3 of these bolts. And then this allows you to slide this plate left and right. If you slide the plate to the left, tighten the bolts down, and the gap gets bigger, then you slid the plate the wrong way. You have to slide it the other way. Once you tighten everything down and everything is cutting exactly like it should be, then you're done. That's it. Alright guys, hopefully you found this video to be helpful. This is just my way that I like to set up my miter saws, and it works for me. I know there's a lot of different other ways that you can do it, but this just seems the easiest to me and it works for me. So if you have any questions or concerns, leave them in the comments section below. Also, we are on Instagram at Rustic Grain Designs _Tampa, and be sure to subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And so I'm going to get to work. I have to install it in the miter station behind me, and we'll catch you guys later. We'll see you on the next video.